everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I'm really excited because I'm going to be doing a collaboration video with the lovely ladies from Bestie Book Reviews and Bookmarked by Jenn. We did see some of these videos going around in the past from other booktubers, and it was also on Book Talk, and we thought it would be a really fun idea. The videos that I saw that people did on Book Talk were from Oh Hey It's McKay, Sam Reads a Little, and That Tall Book Girl. So I thought that the video was really fun and interesting, and then it's been on TikTok too. So basically what we're going to be talking about is books that are overhyped, worth the hype, and underhyped. So I'm going to narrow mine down to 3 because if you've watched my videos before, you know I can tend to ramble about books that I love. So I want to try and keep this video a little bit shorter and not too long. So we'll see how I do at 3. I'm not sure how many they're going to do, but it's just whatever works best for our videos. So I'm going to link their videos down below. So please make sure you go check those videos out. And don't forget to like and subscribe to their channels because they're amazing. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. So I'm going to start out with the books that I think are overhyped. So if you've watched my videos before, you probably have heard me rant about these in the past. So one of these books, I'm actually doing a reread of this month because everybody loves it. And Jenn and Mandy and Jessica told me how much they loved it. So I'm going to give it another try. I'm going to do it. I DNF'd this book, and I think it's so overhyped. So I'm hoping I'll give it the second chance will work. I'm going to be doing a vlog, so we'll see how that goes. But that book is Haunting Adeline. So I know you probably love this book. So many people love this book. So don't come at me. If you love these books that I mentioned, that's great. It's very subjective. Everybody likes something a little different. So I totally understand, you know, if you like this book. But Haunting Adeline didn't work for me. I think I DNF'd it at like 40%. It was super long, and I love dark romance, but it felt like somebody trying over the top to write dark romance because they were catering towards like that towards that reader. You have a stalker romance. I probably don't even have to explain what it's about because it's so overhyped. It is everywhere on Book Talk, BookTube, Instagram. It's everywhere. And everybody puts like Zaid as like a top book boyfriend, but he's a stalker. And I believe he full-on sexually assaults the heroine. I didn't get that far, but I talked to somebody else, and they said, like, at one point he forces her to, like, suck on his gun. I don't know. If that's your thing, okay. But my problem also was the writing. It was way too long. It was boring. And it's a duet. So, like, for it to be 500 whatever pages for, what, like, 2 books each, you know, it's got to have better writing. I didn't buy into him being a good guy or somebody to root for just because he helped victims of sex trafficking. We're supposed to root for him and like him, even though he's stalking her and killing her and sending her creepy stuff. And the heroine honestly annoyed me because I think one of the breaking points was for me was where he would send her stuff and tell her she's not allowed to touch anybody. And she was at like a club and this guy was hitting on her, and he's like, if you go home with him, I'll kill him. And she literally brings him home and does stuff in front of like the windows to get a rise out of this guy. And guess what? This guy gets killed. So I'm like, you caused that guy's death. Anyways, sorry to get too spoilery on it, but I'm pretty sure most of you have probably read this book. I DNF'd it, but I will give it a second chance. But I do think that it is overhyped it's everywhere. Like, everybody loves it. Daddy Zaid, Daddy Zaid. I don't get it. I didn't think the writing was that good. And I thought his like lines were really like cheesy. I don't know. It just seemed over the top trying to be dark. So that's just my opinion. We'll see if it changes. I'll let you know. The other one that I have is a Twisted Hate. I'm sorry if you can see my ring light. But this was so hyped. I really love the Twisted series. Honestly, I like the first book and the last book the best. But I saw so many people love this book as an enemies to lovers, all that kind of stuff, and like true enemies. but I didn't care, and I was so bored. I thought their reason for hating each other was really stupid, and that if they would have just communicated, we would have gotten through that. You're dealing with them hating each other most of the book and then hate fucking for most of the book. And then she basically lies to him and ends this whole third act conflict that I thought was stupid, that she shouldn't have done it. I'm going to put this down in case it has my ring light on it. But I just thought it was really dumb. I didn't buy into the couple. I thought it was a little over the top with the hate to love. And I thought it was also just playing up to that hate to love thing that every book like caters to now, because people love that. But, you know, it was okay. I didn't hate it by any means, but I do think it's overhyped for what it is. Okay, and then the last one that I have is What Was Meant to Be by QB Tyler. So many people loved this book, and I think I gave it 3 stars. It's, you know, her dad's best friend. He's like a godfather to her. They had like an affair when she was younger, and then he left abruptly, and now she's getting married, and now he wants her, so he's coming back home to get her. And I just didn't care. I thought the relationship was like, they were instantaneous, like already hooking up once he come back. She didn't make him really grovel that much. We were just told how much they were into each other and that they were in love with each other. I didn't see that connection. And this is kind of a problem that I've found in the last 2 QB Tyler books, is like it's instantaneously together, and I didn't watch them fall for each other. I would have much rather liked the book if it had good flashbacks that actually meant something, or if it started out as they were like trying to fight their feelings and falling in love with each other. So honestly, it was a big fail to me. I see a lot of other booktubers give this 5 stars and put it like on their best list, and I just don't get it. Like, I was bored. The sex scenes bored me. It was just smut, 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 smut every chapter. So I need a little bit more of a build up, a slow burn, the angst to build up, and it really fell flat for me. So those are my 3 that just are a little overhyped to me for what they are. But that's just my opinion. Okay, so now let's go into the fun one, which is Worth the Hype. I do apologize if you can hear my air conditioner, but it's so hot in San Diego right now, so I'm hot in front of the light, and we just did our live show today on the Wild and Free, so I was already kind of hot in front of this light. If you didn't see that, by the time we post this, that will already have aired, but you can always go on Bestie Book Reviews. It was on their channel on the live shows, so if you want to hear our reactions to that, it was really fun. But anyways, back to this. If you have watched my videos before, you're probably going to know what I'm going to bring up as Worth the Hype, and I can't stop, okay? It's one of my favorite books. It was my favorite book of 2022, and that is Heartless. I think, what more can I say about this book? I've already gushed about it in multiple videos. I'm not a small town romance chick most of the time. I read a lot of dark stuff, and this, for some reason, just hit me. It has everything that I want in a book. It has one of my, basically like my top book boyfriend, which is Cade, and I loved it. This is a grumpy sunshine, small town, cowboy, you know, age gap, nanny. I mean, you hear all those tropes and you think it's too many tropes and run. Elsie Silver does such an amazing job on this book. It's a 6-star read for me. I love it. You have Willa, who is one of my favorite heroines of all time. She's so feisty. She's so ballsy. She goes after what she wants. She may be a little flighty and didn't know what she wanted to do with her life. But she really brings so much joy and like life to Cade. I mean, Cade is a single father. He's basically had to take on the ranch and do everything on his own for his family. He's very grumpy, very stoic, and he doesn't want Willa to be the nanny. But his son, like, freaking loves her. They have an instant connection. She had never even had history taking care of, kids or anything. But she did such a good job with his son, and they built an instant connection. And she lives in his house with him, so you got forced proximity. and he just can't stop the way he falls for her. They fall really hard for each other. Cade wants to take care of her. I love a man that wants to take care of his woman. He fights it as long as he can, but he can't. And once they get after it, let me tell you, Cade is a dirty talker. He has praise, which I love praise. He is just so sexy. The sex scenes were on fire in here. I felt their connection. You felt them fall in love with each other. The third act wasn't the typical third act breakup. It was kind of like a pause and trying to do what's right for Cade and have Cade look out for himself for once instead of everyone else. And Willa is just such a firecracker. Honestly, the rest of the books in the series, my highlight on them is seeing Willa and Cade again. I love them so much. They're one of my favorite couples. I just love Cade. I love him. I love this book. I'm sorry. I know I've talked about it a lot, but this I was afraid to go into because it was so hyped. And I thought the first book, Flawless, was good, but I didn't think it was as good as what this is. Like, this took it up a notch. So much so that Powerless, the book after it, really fell flat for me because they couldn't compare to Cade and Willa. They just couldn't. So if you have not read this yet, please read it. It's one of the best, like, small town romances I've ever read. Okay, so the next one that I think is worth the hype, I just read recently, and I'm late to this party, but I am here for it, and that is Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. This is another 6-star read. I've heard so much about this book. I've seen book clubs about this book, and I just never had picked it up. I don't know why. I don't know what I was thinking. Part of it was like I'll usually read things on Kindle Unlimited, and this you have to like buy. But I'm so glad I bought this book. Pam Godwin is now like a top author for me. I want to get all her books. This story is so intense. Be aware on this to check your triggers. This is dark, dark, dark romance. And just be careful going in. But it's also beautiful and moving, and the story is just sucks you right in. I cried the first 40 pages a lot. Like, I cried. Already, she sucked me in. She had me caring about this girl, Bennett. This girl, Bennett, she ends up becoming a pirate. But in the beginning, she was kind of, her mom was exiled because she had slept, got pregnant by somebody that wasn't of nobility, and ended up being a pirate. And so they kind of exile her. She goes to America, and so she's raising Bennett on her own. Bennett sneaks away once in a while to visit her dad when he comes into port, and like he'll visit her. And just the beginning is so dark. What happens to her, it changes everything, and she ends up being a pirate, and she ends up being the pirate of her father's ship. And to be a pirate, of a female pirate, and have men listen to you, that can just tell you how badass Bennett is. She is one of the strongest heroines I've ever read. The amount of things she goes through in this book is insane. She is on the run from her husband. She's still doing her pirating, but her husband, basically, she found a letter where he had written a letter, or somebody had written a letter to him as like a goodbye love letter, so she knew he was cheating on her. And so she ended things and went off and left him there. And he's been after her for 2 years. He's finally caught up with her, kind of forced the situation so he can be put on her ship, and he wants to talk things out. But then she gets taken by a pirate hunter named Ashley Cutler. And he is a twisted guy. And he's sent there. He's going to take her back to London to hang. And so she's going to have to do whatever she has to do to manipulate him, to try and get him to stop or delay from getting to London. And her husband, Priest, is hopefully going to come rescue her. So when I tell you check your triggers, check your triggers. This is one of the best pirate historical romances I've ever read, but it is so dark. Pam Godwin does amazing things where she has you hating somebody but then loving them. There is a little twist here because it's Priest and Ashley Cutler and Bennett, and so that situation gets a little interesting. But just be aware there's essay, on page, assault, suicide, robbery. Like, it's just crime, murder, all that kind of stuff. It's very dark, but it was a 6-star read, and I can't stop thinking about it. It was so amazing, and I just love Pam Godwin. Okay, so the third one I want to bring up is an oldie but a goodie, and it honestly got me, one of the books that got me into reading romance again, and that is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. I know, this is a hyped book, right? Like, it's so hyped. I've seen it like on everybody's booktube channels, and I picked it up immediately and I fell in love. This got me into reading Penelope Douglas. It got me into Age Gap. It's a perfect romance. I don't really even think it's that taboo, even though it's her boyfriend's dad, which is for some reason one of those tropes that I really love. I don't know. It really introduced me to that trope, which that's why I love praise beyond just the love of praise. But Birthday Girl just was perfection. She has to live with her boyfriend's dad. Her boyfriend's kind of a loser that's not really doing anything to help out. He's kind of a dick. And the dad, Pike, is just so manly. He works with his hands. They have like an instant connection, which they try to fight, and just the chemistry and the angst and the buildup to when they get together, it was just so perfect. I honestly really want to reread this book because I haven't read it for a long time, and it was just so perfect. Like, for once, it was a book that was worth everybody hyping. I'm going to put it down because, again, my ring light is going to hit that shiny cover. But it was one of my favorite romances. It'll still be on the top tier. Pike is like a top tier boyfriend. So it was definitely worth the hype. So on to Underhyped. So these are a few of my favorite books that I feel like nobody really talks about on YouTube. There is like maybe one person that I think talks about some of these, but a lot of other booktubers don't really mention them. And so I really want to bring those up because I just think they deserve a lot more love. And if you've seen my videos before, you won't be surprised when I bring up the Spidermate series by Tiffany Roberts. The only person I've ever seen talk about this was Jenn from the Book Refuge, and she got me interested in reading this. I honestly don't think I would ever read a spider romance, but this is one of the best, like, alien whatever romances I've ever read. The world building is so insane. It's so beautiful. Catan, which is a spider, he's of Rick's, and he is on my book boyfriend list, honestly. Like, and I know that's weird. You look at this cover, you think it's weird, but I think it's so beautiful. Like, it's just such a beautiful romance. And Ivy basically a long time ago was sent, from Earth to like colonize another planet, and they kind of crash landed on Catan's planet. And they were kind of in stasis and like those sleeping chamber things for years. And Catan happens to find her and wakes her up and basically takes her in. He takes care of her. They have a language barrier. So the first book is very slow burn because she wakes up and it's this gigantic spider thing and she's scared. But they figure out how to communicate, and he is so like caring and loving, and he basically takes her in. He like creates a dress for her, webs it, and they basically fall in love. It's a very slow burn. It's 3 books. This is the bind up of all 3. And it's just, I don't know, it's action packed. The world building was beautiful. Like, I can't wait for them to continue because they're supposed to be writing other books in this Brick series, but they are delayed right now and getting the next one out, which is perfectly understandable. But I've never read anything like this, and it sucked me into the world, and I loved Catan. He's so possessive and loving, and the sex scenes are fire. So I know it's weird, I know, but give it a shot, and I'm telling you, you'll love it. Like, it's one of my favorites. It's just so perfect. All right, the next one. that I want to bring up is a historical romance. And honestly, I don't see a lot of love for it. And it was my first book that I ever read by this author, and it made me fall in love with her and have to keep reading. And that is A Matter of Temptation. This is by Stacy Reid. And I can't believe I just read Stacy Reid this year, because she's phenomenal. I think she writes some of the best historical romance. I feel like it's so different than other historical romances. And this one had such a cute, like, interesting setup that I found very unique. In this, you have Mina Crawford, and then you have Simon, the Earl of Creswick. So Simon, I really found interesting because he almost seemed neurodivergent, or just really intelligent, only thinking with his brain and kind of cut off emotionally from people. And he was just very, like, I don't know, just super smart, intelligent, like top tier, like alpha too. And he recognized the intelligence in Mina, and how they met was just so fun. So Mina's brother cheated, and he was cheating at a card game with Simon. And Simon called him out on it and was like, called him to a duel. He wasn't really gonna like make him do that, but he was kind of teaching him a lesson. And so her brother's freaking out and told her about it. And so she kind of like, her cook, I think, like slipped her brother something, and then she sneaks off dressed as a man to duel Simon, and she's like winning. Like, she does a great job, she wins, and he realizes she's a woman and that it's a sister. And so he finds this so intriguing. He's not upset, he's fascinated by her, and so he offers her a job. And so she comes to work for him, so that way she could, you know, help pay off their debts, because they're struggling. And so she goes to work for him. And what I loved about this was he didn't want romance. His like mother was trying to get him to marry. He didn't really care. He just told her, "Oh, by this date, once I do this, I'll get married." And so he didn't even care. He was just having his mother pick out women for him. But he's like falling for Mina. He like respects her and values her opinion, and is just, I don't know, it was so refreshing. But then once he starts to like, they make moves, like there's this carriage like scene where they get robbed, and he's so alpha and badass in that scene. And he was just a different hero than I've ever read in a historical romance, and I just found it fascinating. This was such a sweet romance. It was a 6-star romance for me. It was perfect. It got me into Stacy Reid, and I definitely recommend it. So the final book that I have on the underrated is kind of an odd one too, and that is Soul Eater. I just read this year, and it's a 6-star read. It's a monster male romance, and I found the world building in this fascinating. Lily Mayne, this was her first book, and that shocked me because it was so well done. It is a really interesting world where a rift has opened up and monsters have come through. And it's been about like 20 years ago that this happened. So our hero kind of grew up with where the monsters came through, and his mom had died recently. And so there's really not many options for him. The United States is kind of like a wasteland now, where monsters are at, or like raiders. So it's really dangerous. So he decides to join the military, so that he has like a place to live, and he can, you know, he doesn't really have much options. So in the beginning of this book, he's basically set up as a distraction, or, you know, a lure to the Soul Eater, which is Wen. And he's this monster that comes back every few years and just kills randomly. And the military wants to capture him so that they can figure out why he's doing that. The military is pretty shady, and they are keeping monsters hidden away at these like deep underground locations, and who knows what they're doing to them. Well, they set them up. Soul Eater basically kills everybody except for our hero, and the hero ends up blacking out and waking up and realizing he's back at the military camp, and that Wen has been captured, but he will only speak to him. So basically he goes down there to try and get intel out of him, because he'll only talk to him. ends up happening where Soul Eater is able to escape and he takes him with them, and then they kind of go on this road trip together, and it's just so sweet. It's one of the sweetest monster like romances I've ever read. The sex scenes were insane, like so inventive, because obviously monsters have different stuff going on. I just loved it. Like, honestly, it made me smile the whole time I was reading it. I love the hero. Like, he just literally flat out told Wynn that he was attracted to him. Wynn is pretty interesting. He's got like this cowl on, and he's like completely black where you couldn't see his face. And so he didn't even really know what he looked like, but he was attracted to him as his personality. And they just end up getting into this sexual relationship and falling for each other. And it's just really cool. And then you find out why Wynn's killing all those people. And it's really a fascinating read. I can't wait to continue the series. And I think more people should talk about this. It's so fantastic. So those are my picks. Hopefully this video isn't too long. Please remember to check out Jenn and Mandy and Jessica's videos. I will link those down below. And then as always, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.